Jonathan Pérez. Señora Victoria Reimes, presidenta honoraria internacional de las divisiones femeninas. Señora Grace Beja, presidenta de la división femenina quieres, México. Señora Vicky Cohen, vicepresidenta de la división femenina quieres, México. Señora Sharon Charabati, presidenta de la Federación Femenina de la Comunidad Judía de México. Señora Lisa Suyurón, vicepresidenta de la Federación Femenina. Señora Marquis Vizqui, coordinadora de la firma del libro Hatikva, Diasporite. Señora Marta Fliser, premio Yakir y presidenta de la Meta León de Judea. Señora Dina Saga, coordinadora de la Meta León de Judea, amigas todas. Bienaventurado el que visualiza más allá de sus circunstancias para poder superar su vida. Bendito también quien le extiende la mano mostrándole que sí es posible un mejor porvenir. Invito al excelentísimo embajador de Israel en México, Jonathan Pérez, a quien agradecemos su hospitalidad y apoyo, no solo en este día, sino siempre a dirigir unas palabras.
Muchas gracias. Presidenta de la División Femenina de quieres, Grace Beja, presidenta de la Federación Femenina de México, Sharon Charabati, nuestra invitada de honor, Liat Damosa, el vicedirector de quieres en México, Ezequiel Gross, muy estimadas presidentas, amigas, queridas todas, Shalom. No sé si ustedes saben, pero hoy, 26 de marzo, cumplimos 40 años, o estamos celebrando 40 años del acuerdo de paz con Egipto. Hace 40 años, exactamente hoy, Menachem Begin, Anwar Sadat y Jimmy Carter firmaron en la Casa Blanca lo que se convirtió en el primer tratado de paz que firmó Israel. Y fue justamente un año y medio después de la visita histórica que hizo Anwar Sadat a Jerusalén, si se acuerdan. Yo quería mencionarlo porque en primer lugar es una fecha que se puede mencionar solamente el 26 de marzo, pero creo que también es muy vigente ponerlo siempre en el contexto, porque este tratado de paz es una prueba que sí se puede en otra manera manejar las cosas. Abrió el camino al proceso de paz con Jordania y las negociaciones de paz con los palestinos. Y hoy, en el entorno tan complicado en lo que vivimos en el Medio Oriente, y especialmente ahora con Gaza, momentos difíciles, muy, yo diría, desafiantes, pero siempre acordarnos a dónde vamos, a qué aspiramos y que sí hay resultados cuando uno desea la paz. Pero hoy no vine a hablarles sobre la situación política, sino realmente para agradecer una vez más su gran compromiso con el Estado de Israel a través de sus actividades, sus donaciones, sus visitas a Israel y por supuesto también por haber traído hoy una visitante de lujo que es Liat Damosa, que yo no voy a presentarla, seguramente que ya conocen y van a dar su currículum, pero creo que ella manifiesta o expresa lo que es la sociedad israelí a toda su pluralidad. Tenemos denominaciones y judíos de más de 70 países en el mundo. No voy a ser el primero a admitir que no todo en Israel siempre es 100% como debería ser. Tenemos nuestros problemas sociales, tenemos los problemas de integración, pero sí hacemos un gran esfuerzo a ser una sociedad pluralista, abierta, democrática, con todos los desafíos y los problemas que traen sí. Hay pocos países con 8,5 millones de habitantes que tienen tantos inmigrantes y que enfrentan tantos desafíos, pero creo que Liat es un buen ejemplo. Ella nos va a compartir su experiencia. Al final somos una familia, tenemos un país, una nación, un Estado de Israel, y ahí es donde todos nosotros estamos poniendo nuestros corazones nuestras aspiraciones y nuestros esfuerzos. Así que muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Gracias, Grace, a Keren Hayesod por organizar este evento y que disfrutemos esta tarde. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias por estar de la mano con todos nuestros proyectos y nuestra labor. Le deseamos mucho éxito en el futuro. Aquí en México deja una huella muy especial, la admiración y el cariño de todos nosotros. A continuación, invito a la señora Marta Flisser, premio Yakir y presidenta de la Medallón de Judía, a dirigir unas palabras.
Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. Buenas tardes, embajador y amigo Jonathan Pérez. Gracias por recibirnos de nuevo acá en su casa. Es un anfitrión buenísimo, como siempre. Todas las mujeres de la comunidad lo admiramos y le deseamos todo lo mejor en su futuro. Gracias por lo que ha hecho por Israel aquí en México. Como siempre, en primer lugar, esperamos tener una tarde cálida, una tarde llena de cariño, de buenos deseos, de información, de respeto y armonía entre todos. Aunque, por otro lado, hay algo triste que opaca esta tarde de alegría. Hablo en nombre de la Meta León de Judea, una de las metas de la división femenina. Estamos cabizbajas porque nuestra copresidenta y cabeza, Sarita Dumont, falleció hace 4 días o 5 días. Le rendimos nuestros respetos, cariño y agradecimiento antes de empezar con nuestro evento. Hasta el día que vivió y que pudo trabajar, aunque ya no trabajaba tanto, era la cabeza, la que opinaba, la que nos hacía reír, la que nos decía, ahora tú haces esto y tú haces el otro, y fue una experiencia maravillosa vivir y trabajar con Sarita. Hoy la recordamos, pido respetuosamente, las personas que se quisieran poner de pie y pueden por el espacio, con gusto lo agradeceremos, y las personas que no, igualmente la recordamos. 1 minuto de silencio por Sarita Dumont, gran trabajadora y gran donadora de Keren Hayesod. Gracias. Y ahora la vida sigue y entramos de lleno a nuestra actividad. En nombre del León de Judea, podemos decir que el broche del León de Judea, su valor y lo que significa portarlo, es nuestra misión como miembros de Keren Hayesod. El León de Judea brinda a las mujeres la oportunidad de apoyar la supervivencia judía y la calidad de la vida judía de hoy y del futuro. Es un símbolo de eterna sensibilidad de nosotras las mujeres ante las necesidades de nuestros hermanos judíos. Simbolizamos todas la fuerza y majestuosidad, y por primera vez en la Biblia, en el Génesis, es a donde Ariel le Yehudá, cuando Jacob bendice a sus 12 hijos y define cada una de sus cualidades, el destino de cada uno de ellos también. Para Jacob, 4º hijo de Yehudá, dice, es un cachorro de león dispuesto a saltar contra sus enemigos en defensa de su pueblo, lo que lo hará ser un orgulloso y admirado líder. En 72, la división femenina de Miami adoptó el símbolo del León de Judea, y después la división femenina internacional de Keren Hayesod, y esto es para ser portado como un broche que representa el compromiso de las mujeres de la comunidad judía mundial. Lucir el broche es una manera de decir, síganme, a Harari, inspirando a otras mujeres. Yo creo que la contribución individual, y aquí hago señal que todas las metas son igual de importantes para todos nosotros. El que da una meta o da otra meta, lo hace con el corazón, se agradece profundamente. Hablo de la meta de Judea, porque es la meta que nos tocó presidir, pero todas las metas son necesarias para querer a Yesod, y gracias por ello. El lucir el broche, como ya dijimos, invita a tomar un compromiso personal. Nuestra esencia del propósito judío es ir fuera de nuestro camino a cuidar las luces, las gentes, los lugares, para tener una vida mejor como judíos. Debemos de reconocer que todas somos, en todas las metas, antorchas de luz y ayuda al prójimo. Llenar nuestro propósito de pasión es trabajar socialmente por algo judío, para alguien judío, y por todas las acciones que darán a la comunidad, todo. Hay que dar a nuestra comunidad con manos desnudas y cartera abierta. Y el broche es uno de los accesorios más valiosos que dan, es dar con sentido. Señoras, yo encontré dos frases que son importantes y que dice, nosotros somos afortunados y hacemos lo siguiente, y la digo en inglés. If we are so fortunate to have risen our standard of living, it would be very wise to raise our standard of giving, if possible. It always comes back. Y esa es una realidad. Y la otra, aquella implica dinero, esta implica leave your children your values, not only your valuables. Déjale a tus hijos tus valores y no solo la riqueza personal. Y esto combinado es el futuro y el trabajo de nosotras como León de Judea. Agradezco mucho, aunque ya se agradeció, la presencia de la señora Reimers, presidenta vitalicia y fundadora de León de Judea, la presencia de nuestra adorada Grace, que hay que reconocer acá públicamente el esfuerzo tan grande que ha hecho y cómo logró sacar a colación nuestro grupo, y estamos tan contentas trabajando para Helena y Yesod. Y a Sharon Sarabati, excelente presidenta de federación. Con esto cerramos la parte del León de Judea. Les deseamos salud, alegría, fuerza y que tengan todo bueno para poder seguir ayudando. Amén.
A continuación, invito a la señora Ray, presidenta de la edición femenina de quieres, México, a dirigir un mensaje.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes, bienvenidas a todas y todos. Me da mucho gusto verlas aquí, verlos a todos. Muchas gracias, embajador. Gracias a todos los demás. Como cada año, que nos acompañan ya muchas caras conocidas, otras nuevas, que me da mucho gusto que nos acompañen hoy. Gente que ha entrado de nuevo a la meta y gente que ya estaba con nosotros y que nos acompaña hoy. El proyecto de este año es remodelar un centro comunitario etíope que está en la ciudad de Nesher. Nesher está al sur de Haifa. Es un proyecto muy ambicioso que nosotras, la división femenina de quieres, estamos sacando adelante. Queremos apoyar a los chicos que van ahí en las tardes, que toman clases, que toman hebreo, que toman dinámicas, que se absorben a la sociedad de Israel, y en las mañanas van adultos mayores que también trabajan ahí con la absorción y con su idioma, y para que sean parte de nuestra sociedad como pueblo judío que es. Luchar por Israel es luchar por la democracia del mundo y no es algo idealista, es algo absolutamente realista y verdadero. Octavio Paz. Ya son más de 70 años de la creación de una patria, con la única sociedad moderna y democrática en Medio Oriente, elevando los valores esenciales de la antigua ley judía de igualdad y justicia nacional. Israel está formada por una sociedad civil pujante, pluralista, emprendedora, innovadora y exitosa, que ha salido adelante a pesar de sus problemas y la lucha contra sus enemigos. Al mismo tiempo que ha construido un Estado, ha creado una cultura y una sociedad boyante, aventajada, en medio de conflictos y adversidades enfrentadas desde su nacimiento. Es un mosaico poliforme, líder de educación, salud y centros de investigación, donde se lleva una vida rica en valores, ciencia y cocina, entre otras cosas, y le dan un lugar preponderante al arte y la literatura. Hoy ahí se disfruta de la vida más que nunca. Se tiene un alto índice de felicidad y cada uno puede elegir lo que desea ser y hacer. Israel se desarrolla con mucha fuerza y cada vez tiene más importancia en el ámbito internacional. No hay nada que no pueda hacer. Somos los inventores del cultivo de naranjas en el desierto, del Waze, del riego por goteo, de los tomates cherry, de los USB, de la primera ventana solar, del Epilady, el Mobileye, la turbina de viento silenciosa, la Brief Cam, y ahora llegamos a la luna. Todos son inventos maravillosos que han hecho que nuestra vida diaria sea más fácil y cómoda. Israel lleva la responsabilidad de servir como luz entre las naciones. Pero todavía falta mucho por hacer. Luchemos por evitar la deslegitimización de Israel de forma absoluta y permanente, y pensemos en evitar el uso del terrorismo cotidiano en su territorio. Hoy es el momento de hacer acciones basadas en la palabra. Defendamos la legitimidad del pueblo judío y su derecho a existir como cualquier país del mundo. Israel es el corazón del hogar del pueblo judío y como tal seguirá siendo un lugar de anhelo e inspiración para todos los judíos del mundo, una fuente de gran orgullo y el pilar más importante de seguridad y supervivencia. El apoyo moral y económico que nosotros hoy le damos sigue siendo imprescindible e inigualable. Al contribuir, hacemos posible la mejora de la absorción de una parte de la sociedad que lo necesita y que lleva consigo nuestros corazones. Al hacer el esfuerzo, ejercemos el derecho que tenemos, cualquiera de nosotros, a ser parte del milagro israelí. Somos una unidad en la diversidad. Sus problemas también son los nuestros. Su sociedad y su gente son la suma de nosotros mismos y nosotros somos una extensión de ellos. Con Israel, Arevim Zelazé. No están aislados, forman parte de un todo. No somos indiferentes, somos parte de esa responsabilidad. Construimos nuestro mundo en relación a lo que somos y lo que queremos ser. Convirtámonos en componentes activos de esa estructura social. Es un orgullo ser parte de esta cultura milenaria, de la identidad que nos fortalece y nos da el derecho de aportar nuestro granito de arena, para que desde donde nos encontremos confirmemos los logros que hemos realizado. Porque nadie, de manera individual, podría crear y desarrollar por sí solo el impulso necesario para avanzar más rápido. Durante estos años de existencia, Israel ha absorbido a 3,5 millones de nuevos inmigrantes. Hemos traído a nuestros hermanos de Siria, Líbano, Irak, Yemen, Marruecos, Argentina, Rusia, Francia y de Etiopía. Como lo hiciese Moisés con el pueblo judío, hace 3,000 años, atravesando el desierto, caminando, y como si fuera una máquina del tiempo, han llegado al futuro y se están integrando en una sociedad de las más avanzadas del planeta. Todo judío es potencialmente ciudadano israelí por derecho. Señoras, tiremos nuestros corazones por encima de la barda y nuestros cuerpos lo seguirán. Pongamos la esencia y el alma por delante y sigámoslas con nuestro apoyo y generosa aportación, manifestándonos así como mujeres comprometidas con nuestro pueblo. Hoy tenemos una invitada de honor, que viene desde Israel especialmente para este evento y para compartirnos su increíble historia de vida. Hemos estado visitando también las escuelas de la red judía para compartirles a los chicos el impresionante trabajo de vida. Bienvenida Ilan, que nació en Etiopía e hizo todo el trayecto a pie hasta Sudán. Fue de los primeros grupos de etíopes rescatada en ese país por el gobierno israelí, que salió de 1983 con el apoyo de Ilan Ajzen. Hoy nos viene a compartir su historia de vida y el trabajo de absorción que realiza como profesional en la agencia judía. Primero vamos a ver, ¿está lista la película? Vamos a ver una película del viaje y de la vida de la comunidad etíope. Y después escucharemos a nuestra querida Ilan, nuestra invitada especial. Muchas gracias. Vamos a permitir que Liat hable primero, en lo que se arregla el sonido de la película.
Shalom, Sohai Tovim, good afternoon. Wow, it's really exciting to see so many beautiful faces that are here only to hear my story. That's really an honor. So my name is Ilan Ajzen. I was born as Semenish in a small village in the north part of Ethiopia, in the region that was called, and is still called, Gondar. Most of the Jewish community used to live in two main regions, the Gondar area and the Tigray area. Because historically, the way we arrived to Ethiopia was along the Blue Nile from Egypt to the end of Lake Tana and end up in those two main regions. And growing up in a Jewish community in Ethiopia, it's a very clear identity. The component of our essence, of who we are, was very clear to us. The name of our community, Beta Israel. It means the house of Israel. It meant that from the moment that we were arriving there, we were never accepted as part of the structure of the social people there. And also, they reminded us that we are not part of the regular structure, the social structure of Ethiopia. They used to call us Falasha. Falasha, I know in many historical books it's describing the Jewish community in Ethiopia, but actually it was a bad nickname that the Goyim gave us. So we were the Falasha, meaning that we are the people who do not have any connection to the land of Ethiopia. So we had the Falasha on one side and we had the Beta Israel from our side. And when we were growing up, and every child in our villages, in the different Jewish villages, was growing into the descriptions of Jerusalem. Jerusalem for us was a magical word, and it had contained so much magic. When we said Jerusalem or heard the word Jerusalem, we heard and imagined the land of milk and honey. Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, as my parents used to say, the city of gold. We thought that everything in that city is made out of gold. And it's God's place. So the temple is there, and the people are so peaceful. They never fight there. And not only that they don't fight there, because of that place is so holy, people don't even touch the ground as they walk. That holy is that place. So for us it was magical, and from the day that we were born, we were dreaming to go back to Jerusalem, to the land of our forefathers. And we knew that we are part of the Beta Israel community, and every Shabbat we would go to the synagogue that was located in the center of our village. And everybody knew exactly who is part of the family and part of the Jewish community. And we had to memorize our lineage 7 generations back. So if I want to share a little bit about my family lineage, I will share with you that I am Semenish. My father's name is Tafera. His father's name is Demoze. His father's name is Shetu. His father's name is Alemu. And I can only go back in 6 generations. But if I had to be living still in Ethiopia, I would have known by heart all the 7 generation lineage from my mother's side and from my father's side. And just to make sure nobody's forgetting that history, we could not marry anyone who is related to us till 7 generation. And if it was 7 generation, it's far enough to make them close again, and you can marry them. So it was a very strict rules, and we knew exactly what are the holidays that the Bible is giving us: the Orit, the Torah, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. And we had one extra holiday that was added to our culture. We call it the Sigd. It is celebrated 50 days after Yom Kippur. And it was sort of a reminder that our spiritual leaders added to our tradition to remind us of who we are. And at that day of the Sigd, all the Jewish people from the different villages would gather on a high mountain, symbolically to the ceremony that was taking place at Mount Sinai. And we would agree again to receive upon ourselves God's presence and the agreement we made back there in the desert of Sinai. And every year we would gather the entire different community from the different villages, and we would say, next year we'll do it, Be'ezrat Hashem, in Jerusalem. So when I was 3 years old, my mom was having a baby, and my brother was just born. And one day my father came after the work, and he told my mom, listen, I heard that there is a Jewish person. I don't know him personally, but I heard that he heard from somebody that heard from somebody else, told him that this guy, he left his village in Tigray and went to Sudan, and then he got to Jerusalem. And now they are very happy. So we also need to do that. And she was like, really? I just gave birth. I cannot really walk anywhere. I mean, it's not possible. So he told her, okay, how much time do you need in order to prepare yourself? And she said, I don't know, but let's work on it and we'll get there. And it was 6 months after my mom gave birth to my brother that she had enough energy and she prepared enough food to go on a journey that she had no idea how long it's going to take. And after preparing everything, one day, or should I say, one night, my father came home with a guide, and he told her, we have a guide and we are ready to go. So she said, but we didn't do anything else besides preparing food. We didn't sell anything, we didn't do anything. I said, no need to do anything. Because if you'll sell things, the neighbors would start to ask questions. And if it's a communist regime, you know, in a few minutes, the government, the officials, or the soldiers would come and start to ask questions in the good case scenario, and if not, they would just kill us. So, doing nothing, we just left in the middle of the night. The most unusual thing to do in Ethiopia is to walk outside at night after the sunset. And I was really thrilled that we are doing the forbidden thing. Instead of going to sleep, we started to walk. And after 12 nights of walking from our village, we got to the Sudanian border. And at that point, our guide, the nice guide, he told us that he cannot show us the way all the way to Jerusalem. He can only show us till that point. And he just disappeared. And we were all scared and we didn't know what to do or what is going to happen with our family. And my father, he took the leadership. He said, it doesn't matter. If God brought us till this place, we'll manage and we'll fulfill our dream. And we ended up in a refugee camp in Sudan. And like us, more and more families started to come to Sudan, because they were also driven to go to Zion, to go to Jerusalem. And living in refugee camps of Sudan was a very challenging thing. I don't really remember a lot of that period. And till today, it's very hard for many of the adults to speak about that era of time. In their memory, it's almost like they shut it down, that window of time. But I know that many people did not survive the walking in the desert of the Sudan. And many people who did survive the walking did not survive the conditions in those refugee camps. And people were dying every day like flies. And my mom was just praying so hard that we will end up, you know, fulfilling our dream and going out from that hell on earth. And for us, it happened a year and a half after going from one refugee camp to another one. We end up contacting by the Mossad people, and they told us to come to a certain point in a very specific day, and they told us to get on a truck, a bunch of group of the Ethiopian Jewish people. And we were driving into the darkness. We had no idea where we were going. And after a while, they just stopped the truck. We were told to get off. And we only saw these two very huge and strange lights from out of the darkness. And a very huge noise that we have never heard anything like that before. And the people were just shocked. And we were frozen from scared and fear. We did not know what it is or what we are being expected to do. And on that spot, there were emissaries of the Mossad agents, and as well as soldiers, I guess. And they had a very big, important mission to do, to take the people out of that desert very quickly, operating on a hostile land with no relationship with Israel. It was really, really crazy what was going there. But we had no idea of that background and the pressure that they were on. We were just scared. And at that moment, one of our leaders, a very old, wise person, he got to the front, stood next to the soldiers, and he started to speak to the crowd. He told them, do you remember all the forefathers' prophets? Do you remember how we were told from age 0 that we are going to be back to Jerusalem on the wings of the eagle from the four corners of the world? And people started to forget about their fear and said, yeah, we do remember that story, but how is that related to what is happening here? And he said, look at that thing in front of you. It's just like a huge bird. That's the eagle that God is sending us. If you thought that we made all the way till here, not to continue to Jerusalem, you're being wrong, because this is God's way to take us back home. And in few minutes, we were all on that airplane. And I remember that we were given challah on that plane. And that's a special structure. It was such a spongy structure. And I ate it like crazy. My mom, she couldn't really eat it, so I asked for her share as well. And I was eating my father's share as well. And it was so much fun, because that was really like an amusement for me. And as we started to leave the ground and the airplane was on the air, I think maybe because of the angle, I don't know, or the excitement, I was just vomiting everything. But it was really exciting times for me and for my family. Luckily, all of us survived. And we got to Eretz Israel. We were absorbed in an absorption center in Afula. And we went to Ulpan. And I remember after maybe 1 month, I was already mumbling fluent Hebrew and almost forgetting my Amharic. But I was just excited. It was the first time for me to be able to go outside and play with other children. All this year and a half in the refugee camps, I was not allowed to go outside of my mother's side. So I will just share with you a last story. My first day to the kindergarten. All excited. Like my excitement was over the top. And I'm like ready with my sandwich and my bag, and I'm all dressed up, woke up really early before everybody else, and I'm going to my kindergarten. I was like really excited. We enter the kindergarten, and the teacher is saying, Shalom, Brucha Ba'ah, and I'm saying, Shalom, I'm giving her a hug. She didn't understand where it came from. And then the rest of the children are starting to arrive, and everybody's crying. Because it's the first day of Gan. Everybody's crying. And I was like looking at them, that was so weird. Is that what they do in Israel? So I was going to the teacher and saying, should I also start to cry? Because I know how to cry. And she said, no, please don't do that. So now, many years after, I know that because of the separational stage of the parent from the child, everybody's crying, but I was really in a different structure and phase in my mind as I was going to the kindergarten. Fast forward, I went to high school, I graduated, I went to national service, I worked with teenagers who were living in a boarding school, growing up in families who could not support them economically and educationally. And after doing that, I traveled in North America to improve my English, and then went back to Bar Ilan University. I studied informal education and sociology and anthropology. After that, I found myself rolling back to the Jewish people again and connecting to the organization that I'm working today at, the Jewish Agency, meeting the people who enable all what we see in Israel. Starting from the establishment of the state, building cities, kibbutzim, moshavim, youth villages to help the children who came from the Shoah, and helping lone soldiers, and helping young families, new immigrants, And this is like really an honor for me to be here today. And thank you, because I see you firsthand. So thank you. Toda raba.
Liat está muy dispuesta a contestar preguntas. Si alguien quiere preguntar algo, quiere decir algo, Liat, antes de que dejemos aquí los recorridos. Si alguien tiene una pregunta, alguien quiera saber sobre Israel, sobre el trabajo que se hace con los etíopes. Sí, por favor.
Thank you, Liat. It was very emotional, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Have you been back to Ethiopia since?
Yes, I have. I have been back to Ethiopia several times. The first time was the most emotional time. I mean, I have heard so many stories growing up with my grandparents and my parents. I've seen videos on Ethiopia landscape, and I was exposed to the culture and to the music and the food. But it was something that I didn't expect when I was landing there. We arrived at Addis and then right away took a flight to Gondar, the region that I was born in. And you know, few moments after we left the airport was like entering a movie scene. I could not believe that that landscape of the open fields, the mountains, the agriculture, people working the land with oxes, just like in the biblical times, was totally shocking for me that I live in such a modern society, living in Israel. It's even postmodern society, you can say. And going back in time to witness that firsthand was totally shaking my state of mind. The way I was looking at my parents and thinking about my parents was totally different. Because now I could really understand, first time as an adult, what they had to go through their life. What decisions they had to take in order to enable us, the children, the next generation, to live in Israel. It was completely shocking, and I appreciate that experience so much till today. So, yeah, I've been back.
Thank you.
How many Jewish people are still left in Ethiopia?
No, sorry.
¿Cuántos judíos hay todavía en Etiopía?
It's a good question. I don't have an accurate number to give you. The Jewish Ethiopian community used to live in two main regions, and we had really the structure as I told you before. But most of the Jewish community is already in Israel. And currently, the people who are still in Ethiopia are people who intermarried and left their villages and were not living no longer Jewish life. It meant that they were disconnected from the main community, yes. And some of them were also living in a very remote villages that when we were coming to Israel and Jerusalem, both on Operation Moses and Operation Solomon, they never heard of our leaving the country even. And now that there is more technology and people can text message or WhatsApp their family, it's a whole different situation. And also people who converted to Christianity 100 years ago or even more, because the people who didn't convert were not allowed to have land, they were not allowed to work in certain professions. And they made the choice to go to live better. But now that the church is no longer the big power, they want to go back to their roots and they go back to their faith. But there is, a lot of controversials. Who is exactly from that descent of the Jewish community and who is not, who is eligible and who is not. There are many different committees that are deciding that together with the Ministry of Interior and the leadership of the Ethiopian community is well involved. They provide the names and the forefathers. They can prove the name if it's a real person or somebody else that's just pretending. So, and also because of the lack of documents in Ethiopia, living in rural areas, not in cities, nobody has a real documentation on all people who are born or not born. So it's really tough question to answer.
You arrived on the first operation, Moses. Do you have any feelings about the difference between your arrival, your Aliyah, and the next Aliyot, the Solomon and Promise operation?
In what sense?
How do they arrive, prepared or not prepared? What's the difference between the people that arrived in your Aliyah and the next ones that arrive later? Do you have any conscience about that?
It's not scientific,
No.
but from what I see, the general impression is that the first groups who came to Israel, they didn't have any preparation. For example, my father or mother or my grandparents never met anyone from Israel till they got to Israel. And on Operation Solomon, we already had an emissary on land. And we already sent them photos of Israel. We wrote them letters to our relatives back in Ethiopia, how is it like to live in Israel? And they came with somewhat very more knowledge from us. The people who arrive today is a whole different experience. They know very well. The times and the country of Ethiopia has changed as well. The communist regime has collapsed and there is a new government in Ethiopia. They are very open to international relationship and they have very good relationship with Israel. There is exchange in many levels from agriculture and business and technology. There's a lot of presence in both countries. So the people who arrive today, they know so much more than what we had. We had the Torah. They have us. It's very good.
Sorry. How did your parents cope with their new reality? That's one question. And the second one is, I suppose that the rest of your family joined you also later. I suppose so. So please let us. Are they any left? I don't think so.
No. So when we came to Israel, I made Aliyah with both of my parents. And my grandmother, my mom's mother, who came to visit in our village, just because my mom gave birth, she came to visit her and to help her. So my father said, okay, if you are here, you might as well just join us to the journey. So she made Aliyah with us. On Operation Moses in '85, my grandparents of my father's side, they came with all my uncles and aunties. And in 1991, on Operation Solomon, my entire family got to Israel. So all of them are in Israel, Baruch Hashem. And the other question regarding to how my parents adjusted to Israel in the modern life, it's interesting. On many levels for women, it was heaven, because they didn't have to go to the well to bring water anymore. They didn't have to send the boys to collect wood in order to make fire, and then preparing the dinner. And there is a washing machine. There are so many machines that replace all their hard work. So on that level, the technology just made life easier. On the mental level, it was a whole different story, because it meant that from the moment that we arrived to Israel, both my parents had Teudat Zehut identity cards, and therefore both opinions matter, and therefore both of them are going to study the language, and both of them were then needed to support the family, because it's not enough that one person is working in Israel. So the whole dynamic was changing, and some families have more challenges with that change. My father, he's a very unique person. He was a very different in that structure of the Ethiopian patriarchal society. He was very open, and his thinking was much advanced than his peers. So it was pretty challenging, to have a different life and different structure, but it was pretty okay, just different.
First of all, thank you for your incredible energy. It's been a pleasure listening to your story, and we have enjoyed it so very much. But I have two questions. The first one is, what you're describing really does look like a highway of milk and honey for your story. But I know that otherwise it hasn't been so for all of your Ethiopians arriving in Israel. And I suppose there are certain challenges, and maybe you can describe to us what would the major challenges be for those who haven't had it so easily and so beautifully as you have. And then my other question is, and I'm not sure about this, but in the time that you were in the refugee camps, did it ever come up to your parents to think it might have been a mistake to do this? Or was it just a matter of time, they'll come pick us up, we'll be in Jerusalem, it's 100% sure? Or maybe there was a moment there that they thought maybe we were better off where we were, because there was so much not knowingness of what's to follow, that maybe they too were very scared for their children. So was it like a sure bet, or there was uncertainty there?
So when I tell the story of my aliyah and mention my father and his decision made for us all to just leave without knowing anything or anyone who has done that before us, it's either very brave or very crazy. It depends on how you look at the picture. I still think that my father made a very brave decision. The Ethiopian community is, in a way, you can say, very naive about the way they pictured and saw the world. So they had a pure faith that it doesn't matter how much they are suffering along the way, it's just temporary, they will get there. They will get there. They had a pure faith that it will happen for them, because they really wanted it from their bottom of their heart. But today, 30 years after, a very good friend of mine helped to make a documentary talking about the journey itself. And they interviewed few people, some of them I know very well. And it was the first time that I have heard the witnesses about what was happening in those refugee camps, how people really died, and how a mother was breastfeeding her baby, and as she was doing that, losing her own life. And you are hearing those witnesses and you think to yourself, how can they stay sane after all those experiences? but the belief in the future and the goal, and the faith that God showed them the way, and He will show them the way. I think that was what was keeping them along this very difficult journey. And as a child, I don't really remember all of that. I just remember being very protected, very protected. As for your first question about the challenges of the community, I was really fortunate to come to Israel with both of my parents, having both sets of grandparents, and having uncles who've been serving in combat units, and aunts that are like strong women that played as a role model for me. But not everybody had the same story as me. And I know people who came broken families, and children who had to go to live in youth villages because they didn't have both parents to take care of them. And I know that it's much harder for a lot of people who do not have that kind of a support. The challenges are mainly, I think, the lack of knowing the modern life, the lack of knowing how to consume services, even though there are a lot of services out there. And I think that it's just a matter of time, and also changing the generation. I have a lot of respect to my older generation leadership, but I know that the real change will come from my generation and younger generations, because we are starting in a different opening point. We understand the language, we understand the system, we understand our rights, and if there are hardships, and there are hardships, people know how to go out to the streets and use democracy and to share our opinions. We have more people who can stand up and say their opinions, and it's a whole different thing from what my parents' generation was going through. I hope I answered.
Vamos a pasar la película, dura 3 minutos. Ay, finalmente se queda.
El templo mantuvieron prácticas bíblicas, rezaron oraciones hebreas y conmemoraron las festividades judías. Los judíos etíopes llevaron una vida rural, sin instalaciones sanitarias, electricidad o atención médica adecuadas. La mayoría de los adultos eran analfabetos y pocos niños concurrían a la escuela. Fueron perseguidos por diversos regímenes y a veces se vieron obligados a convertirse al cristianismo. A principios de 1980, la comunidad se vio amenazada por la sequía, la hambruna y la inestabilidad política. A finales de 1984, Israel, con el apoyo del gobierno de los Estados Unidos, decidió salvar a la comunidad de Etiopía y trasladarla a Israel. Dado que Israel no mantenía relaciones diplomáticas con Etiopía, agentes del Mossad fueron enviados a ese país para organizar el rescate clandestino a través de Sudán. Desde noviembre de 1984 hasta mayo de 1985 se llevó a cabo la Operación Moisés. 8.000 judíos etíopes abandonaron sus aldeas y cruzaron a pie el desierto hasta Sudán. Muchos de ellos murieron de hambre o por enfermedades en este largo y accidentado recorrido. Los sobrevivientes fueron trasladados desde Sudán a Europa y de allí a la tierra de Israel. Algunos se vieron obligados a dejar atrás a sus seres queridos. Cada año se lleva a cabo en el monte Herzl en Jerusalén una ceremonia en memoria de los que perecieron en el peregrinaje a Israel.
סיפור עליית יהודי אתיופיה הוא אחד מסיפורי הגבורה המרתקים בהיסטוריה של עמנו. עומק הקשר של עם ישראל ואתם כחלק ממנו לארץ ישראל. המסירות והנאמנות שלכם לארצנו ולעמנו, גם לאחר ניתוק של 2000 שנות גלות, במקרה של יהודי אתיופיה יותר כנראה, מסמלים יותר מכל את סוד כוחו, את סוד קיומו של עמנו ואת אמיתות ועומקות הרעיון הציוני.
אני עליתי מאתיופיה במסגרת מבצע משה ב-1984.
זה היה טיול ארוך שלא היה בו אפילו נתיב. אנחנו לא ידענו לאן אנחנו מובלים, לא ידענו לאן אנחנו הולכים. אנחנו היינו טרף קל לכל מי שרצה לשדוד אותנו. גם אחרי 30 שנה עדיין המסע לא תם.
זה מאוד קשה לבוא ממקום שבו אין טכנולוגיה או המדינה לא מפותחת. בגלל הפערים החברתיים שהמשפחה שלי נתקלה, ובעצם כל המשפחות שעלו מאתיופיה נתקלים בהם עד היום, רק בשביל לעמוד במקום צריך לרוץ. בשביל להתקדם צריך לטוס.
La Operación Moisés fue la primera de una serie de operaciones adicionales de rescate que trajeron a decenas de miles de judíos de Etiopía a Israel. Mientras que el vuelo dura solo 4 horas, para ellos era un viaje a través del tiempo. Actualmente, la comunidad etíope en Israel alberga unas 120.000 almas. La integración de los judíos etíopes planteó un desafío sionista de primer orden, tanto para el gobierno de Israel como para la sociedad israelí. Para la mayoría de los inmigrantes etíopes, la alía fue acompañada por enormes cambios en su estilo de vida, en lo económico, en lo social y en lo cultural. La transición desde un estilo de vida tradicional, patriarcal y rural a una sociedad moderna, urbana y tecnológica constituye un complicado y doloroso proceso. Mientras que para la generación más joven le es más fácil integrarse a la sociedad israelí, los ancianos que dirigían sus comunidades en Etiopía tuvieron dificultades para cumplir con ese rol en Israel. El proceso dio lugar a una crisis de liderazgo dentro de la comunidad. La situación socioeconómica de los etíopes israelíes sigue siendo inferior a la norma. Ello se manifiesta a través de bajos locativos, alto desempleo, bajos salarios y relativa pobreza. Importantes recursos se han invertido en la absorción de los inmigrantes etíopes. Quieres ha jugado un papel significativo en este proceso, apoyándoles en los centros de absorción después de su arribo a Israel y más tarde en sus lugares de residencia permanente. Lo que yo espero de Quieres es que continúe apoyando la absorción de los nuevos inmigrantes de Etiopía, que continúe apoyando la educación, apoyando los proyectos relacionados con nuestra comunidad, porque eso es muy importante. Su absorción en el país es un elemento inseparable de su alía, y eso es lo que se debe hacer. A través de los años, el gobierno de Israel junto con la agencia judía y Quieres han realizado grandes esfuerzos para facilitar la integración de los inmigrantes etíopes en todos los órdenes. Miembros de la comunidad etíope se han convertido en médicos, abogados, oficiales del ejército y líderes políticos. Ellos están forjando su propio destino, realizando sus sueños en la tierra de sus antepasados. Sin embargo, 30 años después de la Operación Moisés, resta aún mucho por hacer, a fin de que los judíos de Etiopía expresen todo su potencial y ocupen su merecido lugar en la sociedad israelí.
La verdad es de que gracias a Cheque, que estuvo aquí lidiando con el sonido de los problemas aquí, gracias Cheque y todos los técnicos que estuvieron con nosotros. Liat, por favor, sí, un reconocimiento le vamos a agradecer a Liat con Marta Flisser, Nalke, Hani, por favor. Un reconocimiento, un regalito que le tenemos. Estuvimos realmente aprovechando esta película con los niños de las escuelas de la red. Es muy alusiva a todo lo que ha sucedido con los etíopes dentro de Israel. Es una película muy valiosa que queríamos que no se la perdieran.
I will talk first. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias por la asistencia de todas ustedes. I want to tell you something. 30 years ago, I went into the Women's Division of Mexico. The president at that time was a lady who is here now, and she was the one who was working with Moses Operation. Rebeca Marcos, párate por favor. Thank you to Rebecca. In that year, 30 years ago, we had a beautiful campaign for helping you to come out of Etiopía. A todas ustedes, muchísimas gracias. This is a present for you from the Commission, and I want to tell you, yeah, thank you very much for telling your story that inspired us to help and work for the well-being of the community and the state of Israel. Enjoy this
porque este es su último año que vamos a poder tener la presencia del embajador aquí en su casa. Y de veras mil gracias, señor embajador.
que siempre nos ha abierto las puertas de esta casa con mucha amabilidad. Estamos muy orgullosas de tener un embajador como Jonathan en México, un representante extraordinario. Y bueno, pues de verdad les quiero agradecer. Y bueno, también quiero agregar un poco a lo que dijo Harry. Eva Schlosser también estuvo en una misión en Etiopía. Y bueno, pues la verdad es que esto es como un complemento de todo lo que hemos trabajado durante tantos años. Pues agradecemos a nuestra presidenta que nos da la oportunidad de seguir haciendo estas actividades. Muchas gracias por su asistencia.
Muchas gracias. A ver, todo el mundo pregunta qué hace Keren Ayesod. ¿Qué hace Keren Ayesod? Bueno, Keren Ayesod trabaja en estas cosas, en esta historia de éxito, en donde tenemos una chica como Liat que llegó a través del desierto con tanto esfuerzo, pensando en Jerusalén, y ha rescatado a tanta gente que han hecho Aliyá, las han ayudado a que se establezcan con el idioma, con la forma de vida. Y bueno, esto que hace que es Ayesod, que se sepa que lo hacemos, que es muy valioso y que nuestras aportaciones y nuestro esfuerzo que hacemos es para tener historias de éxito como estas. Muchísimas gracias, por favor.
Marta, Eva, Kania, Malke.